What's going on, my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are out on another adventure. It is a beautiful day out here, so we are over here in Euclid about to check out a very mysterious piece of history. There is an abandoned bridge here, which I don't even know if you can call abandoned, because despite it being built, it was actually never used. You see, it was built in the 1920s, and they were about to build a great big residential area right adjacent to said bridge. However, it was never built. And as far as we know, nobody has ever crossed that bridge. Now we're about to go check that out. Something I heard a lot about through my research, but I've never actually visited until today. So I am excited to check that out. Let's go and see this bridge. This is the top of the hill, and it looks like I went the wrong way, but you could tell that this was at one point in time a road, thanks to the random fire hydrant that just pops out of the hill. This is an old school fire hydrant too, so you could tell that this was built back in the 1920s. Look at how different it looks compared to fire hydrants of today's age. Well, I did end up going the completely wrong way, but the good news is I did find it. However, I do have to cross this ravine and this creek in order to get to my destination, or I have to pass through this guy's backyard, or I have to go back the way I came. Decisions. What should I do? Well, the good news is I reached my destination. Do not do what I did. Do not follow the brick road down to what looks like an old road, because this is our destination right here, the Hillandale Bridge. All you have to do is simply walk to the end of the brick road, up the hill, go across this big old branch, and you are there. Whew! What a workout. And this, my friends, is old historic Hillandale Bridge. This has been standing here since the 1920s, completely vacant, completely abandoned, only trampled upon by feet, never rode upon by car, as far as we know. Unfortunately, it does look like it has seen its fair share of vandalism, which is quite depressing for this old historic bridge. You can also see that since it has stood abandoned for over 100 years, it has started to decay and deteriorate over time. So if you're coming over here, best watch your step. I have to admit, though, it is quite a fascinating structure. You can see how weathering has knocked down pieces of the bridge over time. Very interesting. I love the fact that you can still see this old metal protruding from the bridge itself. Here's another interesting piece of the bridge work. You can see the metal here. And if you're coming over to this section, definitely be careful, because this part has no guardrail like the rest of the bridge does. Now, as far as I know, people don't really mind you being out here. maybe you shouldn't go the way that I originally went, because I've never been out here before. So I completely made a rookie mistake. But as far as I know, people don't really mind it. It is part of the park system after all. I like this. It said that you made it. And I did. I finally made it. What an adventure. Now folks, we're gonna head down this hill to go see the underside of the bridge. You can see the metal here, which is really interesting. You see the metal down here that is used to hold the bridge in place. Right here. Look at that. Wild. And you can see the metal here that is used to keep these structures here in place. Take a look at all this metal wiring just protruding from the bridge itself. Look at that. There's graffiti, tons and tons of graffiti over here. But look at the underside of the bridge here. Down here. Yeah, look at that. Look how it just eaten away due to all the weathering. I really wish that people wouldn't just cover everything in graffiti. If anything sits abandoned for too long, it completely gets covered in all of this graffiti. Some graffiti I like, some of the more artistic stuff, but this stuff, this isn't really my cup of tea. But look at that bridge. Look how historic that stands right there. I mean, this graffiti does give this bit of area a splash of color, if you will, but I don't know. Never a big fan of random graffiti, although this Homer Simpson does make me chuckle. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's this area inside of the bridge. I don't know why they would have this area, this alcove here. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Why this would be part of the bridge. It's just a part of every bridge. They all have this little secret area in them. Or this is where like a bridge troll would hang out to collect his money and eat goats, you know? Take a look at this. The underside of the bridge right here. This is where we were just walking across. All that stone is now covered up with lots and lots of mud and dirt. I do want to take a look inside here through this doorway, but I don't know if it's worth the risk. This is very slippery and very wet. So I'm out here alone. I don't want to bash my skull on this metal pipe right here and wind up dead in the middle of the Euclid Park. Like this guy. This old bridge here. Just walk right across this. Yeah, it's completely stable. That old bridge right there. This is fascinating. Oop, watch your step. This is really, really cool. Look at this old wheelchair. I think that's a wheelchair. It looks like an old scooter. Something electric. That is quite bizarre as well. I have no idea what this is. Maybe it's an old electric toy. But do not stand on the back bumper. That too is covered in graffiti as well, whatever it is. Something equally fascinating is this. I do not know what this is. It has a big hole in there. It doesn't look like it was a support system. No idea what this used to be. There is a ton of graffiti underneath this bridge. An absolute ton. But it is really quite fascinating being on the underside of this bridge and taking a look around at everything. Yes, this is quite a fascinating place. A bridge that was never bridged upon. It is pretty spooky in here. Pretty spooky indeed. Absolutely fascinating. And look down here, you got this big hole here too, which is similar to the one down yonder. Look at the outside of the bridge right here. It does add a lot of color to it. Despite it being absolutely disgusting. Man, I do not like graffiti. Love history. And unique history like this bridge, which was created and never used and now sits here destroyed, is extremely mind-blowing. I don't know if this place is rumored to be haunted at all. Because old places like this usually are rumored to be haunted. But I've been having a little bit of trouble with my GoPro ever since I got here. And I don't know if that's just a me thing or if it's a little bit of the paranormal. But it is kind of spooky being out here a little bit. This location is really fun though. I like this old bridge. It has a very colorful history. I like the fact that back in the 1920s, it was erected, and then due to the Great Depression, it was never actually utilized. So that is extremely interesting. And the fact that it has become a well-visited location these days makes it even more interesting. Gives it a second life. Isn't that right, Jack? I mean, people come out here guns a-blazing. I find that the railing here being knocked off the bridge and crash landing onto the ground is pretty interesting as well. And look at this metal tubing that's used to hold these bridges together. It's not just stone. Yeah, guys, I really recommend checking this place out for yourself. I have to admit, it's pretty freaking cool. This must be part of the bridge as well. Don't know what's in there. Don't know the purpose of this protruding from the ground here. But it is just as fascinating as everything else in this area. I best be moseying along because this is the hallowed grounds of Slender Man, apparently. Pretty spooky stuff. As I said before, quite frightening. But I have to admit, this is quite impressive. Most impressive. Yeah, this area was supposed to be, at one point in time, a residential area, but they completely nixed it due to the housing crisis in the 1920s. Now, this bridge sits completely abandoned, and there are no houses to be seen, only forest. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on yet another adventure with me. This was indeed on my bucket list for quite some time, and I'm glad that I finally got to check it out with all of you. This place is pretty freaking cool. I do quite enjoy it. A whole heck of a lot. It's very interesting to look back on the past, on a bridge that absolutely nobody enjoyed. Not like Chippewa Lake or Geauga Lake, which millions have enjoyed. Nobody has enjoyed that bridge until its passing. And now, 100 years later, people are still checking it out today. I wasn't alone out there. There were other people checking it out as well. And that's what makes Hillandale Bridge, aka the bridge to nowhere, absolutely fascinating and stunning. Yeah, it's covered in graffiti. Yeah, it's falling apart. But it is so cool. It's so cool to check out something that is a complete architectural oddity. Nobody has driven across that bridge. There is no residential area, and it's in the middle of the freaking woods. Where else are you going to see that but over here in Euclid, Ohio? Thank you so much for joining me today. I had an absolute blast, and I'll see you guys very soon on our next adventure. Bye for now.